Who are you then?
It's the fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. The pain in the ass.
You know I'm all those things. This is Tim. This is... I don't remember what the hell this is because I just did back-to-back podcasts. This is New York Giants Straight Talk. Oh, we want to talk about Saquon Barkley. We want to talk about Jalin Hyatt. We want to talk about a couple things today. I shouldn't do podcasts back-to-back-to-back. But I was asked to do one podcast, and I was asked to do another podcast, and they're like, well, then I was like, I got to do this one. It's just another day, and it's just another day in paradise. Want to talk about Saquon Barkley. Want to talk about Dalvin Cook. Want to talk about Jalin Hyatt first. There has been criticism of Jalin Hyatt from around the league, our outsiders from Giant Camp, of course, that he is just one of those guys that's not going to fit in. He is going to be truculent. He doesn't have the proper skill set. He has terrible route running. He's immature. He's just not the right guy. It's a lot of DeAndre Baker vibe. Now this is coming from outside of Giant Land. Now I will admit this. I've been to two events now that Jalin Hyatt was supposed to be at that he didn't show up. So, I'm not saying, things do come up, things do happen, but these are events that they were advertised that he was going to be there and he did not show up. There was no reason or rationale given him, and there doesn't need to be because of the fact that if he doesn't show up, he doesn't show up. But I think there is a lot of times you have players that have overhype. I think there is overhype from outside of New York in reference to this kid and what he is going to be for this team, and overhype in a derogatory way. The kid hasn't even stepped on the field yet. He had a pretty good career at Tennessee, especially his last season. You can harp on his route running, but he's not Kadarius Toney. We've talked about this. Was he a system of Tennessee and maybe Hendon Hooker? We don't know that yet. We're going to find that out. But the kid does have ability. The kid does have speed. The kid has shown that he has a propensity of coming down with the ball and coming down with the ball in spots that allows him to score. Mike Kafka on Thursday came up and praised Hyatt and his improvement this spring, saying he's right on schedule with his development. And we all know that he could potentially be that key deep threat, Jalin, that we need. Now, I was going to get a Jalin Hyatt jersey, but you know what? I'm sticking with the John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. I'm getting the Jingleheimer Schmidt jersey. I already ordered it. I'm going to another event in the middle of June for the Giants, so I'm going to be rocking that jersey. But Kafka came out and said Jalin is doing a nice job. He's right on schedule. He's working. He's growing. The one thing we've seen from him from the first day of rookie camp to the next day, then we're working through his phase 3 part of it, his growth and his familiarity, his comfortability with the offense. Now, Hyatt, if you go back, and look at his career, he's a guy that's really not had problems. He is a guy that if you take a look at him, you could say certain things, but you can't say one thing you can't say is he was a dominant receiver in college in Tennessee. He was a dominant receiver probably in high school and in Pop Warner. You hope that you translate that into the pros. He dominated the competition like he did against Alabama, who could sometimes be considered just below an NFL team with the amount of talent they have in. Everyone said he's been personal with the media. He's been handling the bright lights like a seasoned veteran. But you still have this criticism outside of New York about what he is going to be, what he can be, and what he's going to potentially be. And I think we just have, like I said, I think he is in the right spot. I think he's in the right position for the Giants. I think this is the right team for him. I think this is the team that if you take a look at it from a perspective of the NFL, this is a perfect spot for him to be in because the Giants need a deep ball threat. The Giants need a speed threat. If you take a look at the Giants roster, the wide receiving core, I'm going to say is not elite, but it is above average in some regards, and he could make it well above average if he comes through. And like I said before, if I'm Jalin Hyatt, or if I'm the New York Giants, if Jalin Hyatt has, and I've said this before, like let's just make the numbers easy because I don't want to do the math, but let's say he just has 35 receptions. But let's say he averages 17 yards. That's almost 600 yards. It's 595 yards. So let's say he has 30 receptions for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think that's a successful season, especially for this Giant offense. This is a kid that's coming off being the Blitnikoff winner of 2022. You know, he had over 67 receptions for over 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. 5 of those touchdowns, of course, came against, like we talked about before, the vaunted Nick Saban and Alabama. So you have to expect him to excel, and I do think he's going to excel. And I think the all the noise that's coming in from the outside of the Giant organization is just that. It's noise, and we have to wait to see. We have mandatory minicamp coming up next week, so we got to kind of wait and see where he goes and where he rolls, and let's see what happens when we have the full complement of the team come out and be on the Giants field, except probably Saquon Barkley. And see where he goes from there. And we'll kind of hang out and we'll kind of see and kind of just go from there and see what he does. See what he becomes. Because I think that's where we need to wait and see. And like I said, to me, he may not fit in some regards into some other team's philosophy, but in this philosophy, in this mindset, in this team, he fits. And he fits well. And he will be hopefully a good to beyond average wide receiver for the Giants and add something that we needed and we've needed for a while. And we're going to kind of go from there. Saquon Barkley. Honestly, the Giants just need to man up. Literally, the Giants just need to man up and give this dude his contract. Now, I understand that we're coming to the point where there's a devaluation of the running back position. You take a look at Dalvin Cook, you see that he is getting released today by the Minnesota Vikings. Now again, this is if they can't trade him, and evidently they're probably not going to be able to trade him. And once he gets released, he will have a plethora of landing spots because Dalvin Cook is one hell of a running back. And he's already, and since his career, he's got over almost 6,000 yards, 4.7 yards a carry, 47 touchdowns. He is a guy that if you go back to 2019 has been a stalwart running back. Now, if you want to take a look at the Minnesota Vikings offense, it's interesting because they do have Kirk Cousins who basically throws for over 4,000 yards every single season. So some people will say their passing game is what drives them. But this is a guy that this is a running back, in my mind, at 27 years old, is in his prime. He's going to get a huge payday. He's going to get paid somewhere else. He'll definitely clear waivers because no one's going to want to pick up the contract. But people will point this to as a devaluation of the running back position. But the problem is you can't devalue a running back position on a team because every team is different. Now, I think the Minnesota Vikings are crazy for doing this, but the Minnesota Vikings are not the New York Giants. The Minnesota Vikings offense is not the New York Giants offense. The value of the running back for the Minnesota Vikings is different than the value of the running back for the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley was like 50% of the offense last year. And if you're going to remove that key cog and that key component as you are getting ready to get into mandatory minicamps, which is more likely going to skip, you are moving a threat away from the offense, which is then going to put the onus on Daniel Jones to be more. And now we've seen what happens when Daniel Jones tries to do more than he can do or should do. We've seen that happen in 3 years. Now everyone's going to talk about, this year, but everyone seems to have forgotten the other 3. You have to remember your history because sometimes the history dictates your future. And if you don't have a running back like Saquon Barkley on this team, the onus of this team is going to fall on Daniel Jones. And we have watched him wilt under that spotlight. Not saying he's going to do that this year, but I am saying this, that Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, to me, are just as important to each other to this team. 1,000%. Now, we've talked about it before. The Giants just need to turn around and crack open the book, give him some money, because like I said, it's come out that everyone talks about, well, he Saquon screwed himself by turning down that money. No, well, we found out that deal he got, that bye week, was only money that would allow him to have the first year guaranteed and only half the guaranteed money in the second year. And evidently, the guaranteed money portion of this contract is the sticking point of this contract. Why would I sign a 4-year contract, let's say, for $48 million when only $12 million of it's guaranteed? That doesn't give me any security after what I've done for the organization and how I know I am a huge part of the organization. This is the one thing that's sticking with me with Shane. You went out and broke the bank for Daniel Jones. You went out and broke the bank for Dexter Lawrence. You're going to have to go out and break the bank for Andrew Thomas. And you are going to sit there and tell your star running back, who is probably coming into his prime, who is going to be a vital part of this team, that we don't need you. We only need you on this contract, and we only believe you in enough that we are only going to give you guaranteed money for that first season and then cut the guaranteed money in half the following year. Come on, Joe. I love you, man, but come on. Get him in. Get it done. Let's get this started. We'll have videos coming out for the mandatory minicamp. It should be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it. And again, this is Tim. This is New York Giants Straight Talk. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell because you know what that means. That'd be awesome.